All right, once again, we're going to be going through the Life Principles Daily Bible. And for the third day in a row, I'm a wee bit sick, as you can probably tell in my voice. I almost feel like Phoebe in those episodes of Friends where she has, maybe it's just one episode, where she has her sick voice and then she's singing very well. Unfortunately, with my voice, I am not able to speak very well. So I'll probably try to keep this concise. We'll put it that way. And it's a shame because there's some good sections that we're reading in the Bible today. First, we have Genesis 39, which is Joseph and Potiphar's wife. So, just a quick summary. Joseph got sold into slavery by his brothers, finds himself under one of, I believe it's the captain of the Pharaoh, some high position of the Pharaoh, this guy named Potiphar. And Joseph, since he's walking with God, there's actually a line here or a verse that says, "The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had." So the Lord is with Joseph, and Potiphar sees that the Lord is with Joseph. So he says, you know what? Since everything in your hands succeeds, I'm going to put all that I have into your hands, and then that's going to succeed. So Potiphar doesn't have to worry about a thing. Joseph can take care of it. Now, one thing Potiphar didn't put in Joseph's hands was his wife. And that's, as we find out, against the wishes of his wife, who actually seems to find Joseph somewhat attractive and tries to seduce him. And Joseph has a pretty good response to this temptation. He says, "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" So he says no. And you'd think Potiphar's wife might be able to take the hint and leave Joseph alone, but she actually doubles down. She waits until nobody else is around, and she tries to seduce Joseph again. And this time he goes to just run away, which, if that isn't a lesson from the story, I don't know what is. When temptation is in front of you, don't try to fight it. Don't try to be curious about, what could lead here if I stick around? Is this a challenge that I'm supposed to, spend a little bit of time with so God builds up my strength? No. Joseph just makes a break for it. And so the lesson there is, when temptation's in front of you, don't try to be the hero. Don't try to overpower it. Just run. And I have to say, I didn't do a great job of that today myself, because I'm sick. I'm wearing the same clothes that I was wearing yesterday. I'm just having one of those days, and I spent a solid 6 hours scrolling through Instagram Reels, which is just the most mind-numbing activity in the world. There's a reason they call it brain rot. And what it is it's temptation. It's those funny videos that release a little bit of dopamine, but it dulls your mind. It desensitizes you. It bombards you with all sorts of ideas that are floating around the culture these days that are just terrible. And then on top of that, it just brings you away from God. And I find that I'm usually most tempted to do something like scroll on Instagram Reels for hours and hours when I'm in a weakened state like this, when I'm absolutely exhausted. I could barely speak. I've been sick for 3 days. I'm coughing. And it's in those moments where the devil attacks. And it says that when Jesus is being tempted in the wilderness, it says the devil departed from him until an opportune time. And often that's exactly what happens to us. Feeling like our Christian walk is going well, and the devil's just waiting. Just like in Genesis with Cain, like a predatory cat just getting ready to pounce. And he waits for a day where you're sick, exhausted, and he says, you know what, maybe you just re-download Instagram. Maybe, it's fine. Just look at a few reels. Maybe you're there to check a message. But then while you're there, maybe look at reels for a little bit. And all of a sudden, it's 6 hours later. Now, am I saying that as a Christian, you can't have any days where you take a break? No. God literally has it in the commandments that we have a day for rest, as he rested and we're made in his image. And we're supposed to use him as an example for how to live our lives. However, we should know what rest is. A good day of rest could be, going for a walk. If you can't go outside because you're sick, maybe you just listen to worship music. Maybe you try to read the Bible. Maybe you listen to some sermons. Maybe you just sit. Maybe you just nap and actually rest. Because scrolling through reels is not rest. It bombards your brain with dopamine. It wears you down. And it feeds an addiction that is going to carry on into future days as well. And it just pulls you again away from God. So there's a fine line there between this mindset that you always have to be productive and also this idea that rest isn't engaging in activities that are destructive to you, whether that's Instagram reels or drinking or smoking or whatever. So in that case, I should have been a bit more like Joseph today. And right when I downloaded the Instagram app, realized, oh, wait, this is the devil realizing this is an opportune time. Delete, throw the phone, and open the Bible. Unfortunately, that's not what I did, but maybe I'll learn that lesson for next time. So Joseph provides a good example. So then you may be wondering, okay, does God reward Joseph for him fighting temptation very well, or not fighting, just fleeing from it? Not so much as it would seem at first, although God works all things together for good. And as we continue to read the story, we'll see how it works for good in the end. Because Potiphar's wife grabs his garment as he's running away and then basically frames him. She says, he tried to lay with me, and when I called out for help, he ran away and I grabbed his garment. So then he gets thrown in prison. So at this point, you're thinking, oh, like Joseph is actually punished for obeying God and not giving in to temptation. However, God works in mysterious ways. Because he's with the Lord still, everything that he does is still successful. So the person who's in charge of the prison puts him in charge of the prison, basically. And then as he has access to lots of different prisoners, there's two people who come in. The cupbearer and the chef of the Pharaoh were sent to prison because the Pharaoh was mad at them. And they both have dreams. And Joseph says, oh, I can, he says, do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me. So then Joseph interprets their dreams. To the cupbearer, he says, Pharaoh's going to reinstate you in 3 days. Hey, remember me when you get reinstated because I'm in here and I'm innocent. And then the chef says, oh, that was a favorable interpretation. I'll try my luck. And then Joseph says, you're going to get hung by a tree in 3 days. So 2 different dreams, 2 different interpretations, 2 different outcomes. And that's pretty much where it leaves off. Although it says that the cupbearer did not remember Joseph. Man, I sound sick. This is pretty wild. Okay, so now going on to Psalms. I'll just read a very short part of this. Why do you stand afar off, O Lord? Why do you hide in times of trouble? Maybe I'll just stop right there. You could say I'm in some times of trouble today. I'm awfully sick. I'm exhausted. And God has felt far away. But perhaps part of the reason God has felt far away is because I haven't been drawing close to God. So in this, it says, why do you hide in times of trouble? You might want to ask yourself, is it God who's hiding or is it you who's hiding? And is it God who needs to turn back to you or is it you who needs to turn back to God? So Proverbs 4, 1-6. I'll just read a short part of that. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you. So it's talking about wisdom and understanding, that we should not turn away from that or the words of God, And that's how we'll be preserved. And if we love her, wisdom will keep us. Now let's go on to Matthew 13:31 to 58. And I wish I had done more research on these ones today. And I wish I had the ability to communicate better today, because there's some great ones in here. There's the mustard seed and leaven, that the kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It's the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. And he tells a number of different parables as well. But what I like is when the disciples ask him to explain. And they ask him to explain the parable of the weeds of the field. And he says, the one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all lawbreakers, and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. So that parable was talking about what he talked about earlier, where there's a field with wheat, and then the enemy plants seeds of a weed in that field that look like wheat at first, but then don't actually bear any fruit. And the farmer says, you know what, leave all the weeds. When harvest time comes, we'll bundle those up, we'll burn them, and then we'll have the wheat. And that's what Jesus says is going to happen at the end of the age. All of these stalks are growing right now, and some of them are going to be harvested for God and have borne fruit, and some of them are going to be thrown into the fire. So, yeah, pretty harsh saying there, but I like these verses because it reminds us that Jesus isn't some nice guy who tells us what we want to hear. He's the Son of God who tells us what we need to hear. And with that being said, I think that will be all that I say, because you probably don't want to hear me talk anymore because of my ridiculous voice right now. And maybe if I get a good night's sleep, I'll be better tomorrow.